This is CBC Here and Now.
We always want to be honest in an age-appropriate way. Prepare them for what to expect, but then let them know that this is normal, this is routine.
Bringing your little one to get their first COVID booster, we get some advice from an expert.
I wanted to know who my family was. I wanted the picket fence that everybody had that I didn't. So I lived with not knowing, but always said, I will find family.
It took a DNA test, 6 years, and help from a stranger. An American woman finds her biological family in this province and gets answers to a lifetime of questions. Good evening, I'm Carolyn Stokes. We'll get to those stories shortly, but first, the payback plan has begun with very little fanfare. This month marks a big moment in the Muskrat Falls saga, and as our Garrett Berry reports, this one will hit your pocketbook.
In the seemingly never-ending saga of Muskrat Falls, announcements,
Muskrat Falls stands on its own merit.
debates,
Still a little question about how much it's really going to cost.
relitigations, and accusations, this is one that's been long feared.
It will meet domestic needs, stabilize rates.
Starting today, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are paying for Muskrat Falls.
Did you know that as of this month, you're paying for the Muskrat Falls project?
I did not.
You did not?
No.
You're just finding out about it right now?
Correct.
I figured it was going to kick in soon, but yeah, I thought it wasn't going to be till the fall. Lovely.
You got this with your power bill last month. Did you read it?
No, I did not, no.
I pay everything electronically. I don't even look at the bill. I mean, you got to have electricity.
It's coming out of your power bill, thanks to a plan that was pitched by Hydro, supported by the provincial government, and approved by the Public Utilities Board. Your July bill would have gone down about 6% or so. Instead, your bill will stay almost the same, and that money is being tucked away in a sort of Muskrat Falls piggy bank, what officials call a cost recovery rider.
I was notified of the process, and I thought the process was reasonable. Rates weren't going up. We're into a very difficult situation, and it was one way of attempting to address that.
The people of the province were always going to be on the hook, but months ago, the Liberal government changed the rules to allow payments to start now. And the opposition says now is not a good time.
Right now, there was an opportunity here for people to get some reprieve when it came to their electricity bills, and this administration chose not to do that, not to help the people while they're struggling. Why would you implement it now? Why would you not share it with the people of the province in advance?
In a statement, Industry Minister Andrew Parsons said reducing the rate for 1 year to have it increase significantly the following year is not consistent with rate mitigation, and also places an increased financial burden on taxpayers 1 year from now.
Customers will get their next bill in just a couple of days, and they'll pay 12.34 cents per kilowatt hour. Of that, 0.8 cents is going to the Muskrat Falls project. For Hydro, all of that money from all of the customers represents about $43 million a year. Even that is just a small fraction of how much money is owed on the Muskrat Falls project. Garrett Berry, CBC News, St. John's.
One person is dead following a crash on the Trans-Canada Highway near Soldiers Pond, just west of St. John's. Emergency crews responded to the scene Saturday afternoon and removed a vehicle from the median. No other information is known at this time. Crews, including multiple water bombers, continue to battle blazes in Central. The largest two fires are in Paradise Lake and along the Bay d'Espoir Highway. A spokesperson with the province says 38 crew members are fighting the fire on the ground with the help of 7 pump units and helicopters. 3 water bombers are also helping in the firefighting effort. Mild weather on Sunday meant the fire didn't spread much over the weekend. A fire behavior analyst is constantly monitoring the weather to keep the public updated on possible risks.
Yeah, and speaking of weather, the thing that's desperately needed really in this case would be rain. And if we take a look at the rainfall forecast over the next, say, week, not a whole lot. We may see some rain Wednesday, not much though, only about trace to 5 millimeters. But then other than that, all of the rain really falling through Saturday up across Labrador, not a whole lot falling across the island. So that is making the fire map, the fire hazard map, pretty yellow here in this case. We're looking at high risk for fires up across Labrador with all of that rain. Not so much, very low risk for you, but as we head through tomorrow, lots more warmer temperatures, and then that lack of rain is bringing that fire risk up even more. So between high and very high for parts of the province, even southeastern Labrador, you're looking at a high fire risk through the day. So definitely going to keep an eye on that and the type of weather that we're expected over the next couple of days. But like I said, more rain expected up across Labrador thanks to that low pressure system that's going to move in. Not a whole lot happening across the island. In fact, some clear skies expected over the next couple of days. I'll get into the details coming up.
Staffing shortages continue to curb services at hospitals in the province. 2 emergency rooms in Eastern Health are closed today. The emergency room in Whitburn closed this morning at 8 o'clock and will remain that way for the rest of the week. Eastern Health says staffing shortages are to blame. Now, Bonavista's ER was closed today as well, also a result of staffing. It's expected to reopen tomorrow morning, while services like lab and x-ray can continue. Chemo and dialysis is being provided in Clarenville. To Buren now, the emergency room in St. Lawrence is temporarily closed there and will remain closed until next Wednesday, August the 10th. Eastern Health says anyone with an emergency should call 911 or go to the nearest open emergency department. Well, starting today, children between the ages of 6 months and 5 years can get vaccinated against COVID-19 in this province. A child psychologist in St. John's is offering some advice on how to prep little ones for their shot and avoid a stressful experience.
Very first thing is to check their own attitudes and fears about needles. Have a little self-check-in, and if you as a parent or someone who is nervous about needles, be mindful that you're going to be passing that message on to your kids even without being aware of it through things like your body language. So it's okay to acknowledge to them, I'm actually afraid of these needles as well. You can be honest with them and age appropriate, but say, you know what, I was afraid of them, but I got mine, and here are some tips that I used. How about we figure out some tricks that you can use as well? So normalize it, but if you're someone who is really fearful, be mindful, especially with your really little kids that are often sitting on your lap. Take that big breath yourself, because your child will pick up on that increasing tension and tightness, and just being as relaxed as possible help to distract them and help to distract yourself at the same time.
So keep an eye on your body language.
Very much so.
And for young children who are afraid of needles, what advice do you have for them?
Well, we always want to be honest in an age-appropriate way. So we never want to say, oh, it won't hurt. But what we talk about is it will hurt for, let's see if we can count to 1 second or 2 seconds, and talk to them about the process. Help them understand that sometimes, there's a bit of a cold wipe that goes on that some people don't like the smell of. So prepare them for what to expect, but then let them know that this is normal, this is routine, especially for young children. They've actually had a lot more immunizations than most of us have had as adults, in their short lives. So in many ways, remind them of previous successful experiences that they've had.
Now, parents and guardians can use the province's online booking system to make an appointment. Eastern Health is also opening a second vaccination clinic for children between 6 months and 5 years of age, and that clinic is located in Mount Pearl Square on Topsail Road. Well, another health story to tell you about. Eastern Health says it's conserving the number of epidural catheters it uses amid worldwide shortages. The health authority hasn't said who is and is not being offered an epidural, which is frequently used to manage pain in childbirth. It's warning the shortages may last through the summer. Well, a local seabird expert says he and other scientists believe avian flu is moving across the province from west to east. Bill Montevecchi is making his way to the northeast coast, which he says is littered with dead and dying birds. He also says the full scope of the destruction of the bird colonies won't be known until next year.
Essentially, there's nothing to do except collect information. We'll be walking beaches looking for birds. But I will, in the same way that we test ourselves for COVID, for Dr. Andrew Lang at Memorial, who's monitoring the disease at Memorial, when I find freshly dead birds on the northeast coast, I'll swab their mouths, their cloacas, and send those swabs back to Dr. Lang's lab, where they'll get analyzed, be positive or negative. I think at the end of the day, the question is going to be how much of the the entire gannet population in the North Atlantic was impacted. We'll try to get our numbers, and and we might well be shocked by that, or we might well say, gee, it could have been worse. But overall, it's a monstrous hit.
While the avian flu is killing a large number of birds, Bill Montevecchi also says the survivors will come back stronger and likely reproduce at a higher rate. Well, after being grounded for 2 years due to COVID, the Victoria Park Lantern Festival returned to St. John's over the weekend, but there was a catch. The warm weather and subsequent fire ban meant no real flames on Sunday. Still, that didn't stop the group from getting together.
This is our, not only is it our first Lantern Festival back from COVID, but it's also our 20th festival of all time. So with that in mind, we've collaborated with the Come Home Year 2020, and we're an official Come Home Year event. Oh, it feels excellent to be back from COVID. You know, it's a beautiful time of year, and it's the height of summer, so it's always excellent to see people down here and enjoying the park. Normally, every year, of course, our lanterns get lit with tea light candles, and we have a huge fire show in the park. Now, with the fire ban, we want everyone to be safe, so we switched to a totally flameless festival, which means LED tea lights and also LED props for our fire show. It was a huge switchover, and we had to cancel our last workshop for it, but we're really excited to be here anyways and to show people what we have with no flames. Don Murray, who passed in the first ever Lantern Festival, we have a memorial to him every year, which is a drum set. And also Simon Lono, who was a huge part of the festival for many years. He helped us build so many of our beautiful lanterns. And he actually pioneered the use of LED lights in our lanterns. So it's an extra special dedication because, we have to use LEDs so much more this year. So we have an area called Lono's Landing dedicated just to Simon.
Well, July was very warm. We'll take an update on how many 20-degree days we've seen across the province and talk about the lack of rain as well. I'll get into the full forecast coming up.
Time for a look at the weather. And during the break, we were talking about that graphic that you showed right before we went to break about how many 20-degree days there have been in the province.
Yep.
And so how are we doing?
Yeah, and I messed it up. I was typing everything out and I missed a 2, I guess. But yeah, so we've actually seen 46 days, which is much nicer than whatever the number I had before was.
And what is the average for the whole season?
For the whole season from May until September, we typically see about 53 days around the 20-degree range. So we're above that, and it's actually much more above than what we saw last year too. So let's take a look at that graphic one more time now that it's right. 46. Last year we saw 69, and so we are above that pace. So hopefully if August stays above seasonal, which is what the forecast looks like at this point, we may see a little bit of a cool down come mid-August. But overall, the trend should be that we stay above where we should be sitting this time of year. So this number should increase. But this is a look at what we're seeing now. And if we take a look at the numbers for pretty much everywhere across the province, not everywhere, but most of the places across the province, both Gander and Deer Lake are nearing where they should be as an average. And last year, just to put this into perspective, you saw in Gander and Deer Lake around 80 days above 20. So you're definitely on pace, if not even higher than that at this point. And then quite the opposite though, unfortunately, for Labrador, 32 times have reached 20 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay, and only 18 in Lab City. And the reason for that is again where the jet stream's been sitting. So we're seeing that southwesterly flow along the south coast and pretty much all of Newfoundland. And then you're just sitting on the other side of that, which is bringing some of that cooler air, unfortunately. So we're now into August, and that means that July, not really surprising, is or was the second warmest July on record. 23.8 degrees was the average temperature. The warmest was in 2014, and that was about 25.2 degrees. So we're just a little bit below that. So certainly a warm July. We're definitely going to have to see how August played out, but the start of August is absolutely beautiful and warm, especially through Central. Terra Nova, 31 degrees today, Badger 30, and Gander saw about 29 degrees today. So definitely still lots of heat. And there's a pretty good, just to show you kind of where that heat is versus Lab City. So you're sitting at 13 degrees this afternoon, but the temperature is going to continue to rise as you head through the evening hours tonight. You're going to sit around the teens for most of the night. Current Humidex, we have seen that Humidex start to pop back up again after a relatively dry weekend. 31 is what it's feeling like in St. John's, 33 in Gander, and we're going to continue to see this humidity as we head through the next couple of days. In fact, by Wednesday, we're looking at some fairly humid conditions. So taking a look at the satellite right now, not a whole lot happening. We have a few showers popping up through Central, and the models are doing a pretty good job at depicting that as well. So we're going to see that continue through the overnight, or at least through the next couple of hours, the chance of showers anyway, and then some showers will move up across Labrador as well as we head through the overnight. Also some fog patches developing along the south coast of the island as well. We may see some drizzle with that. Otherwise, temperatures will sit somewhere between 16 to 18 degrees. The wind's generally light. Northern Peninsula, same thing, with the chance of showers, and then right across the board. So temperatures in the teens for a good chunk of the big land. Like I said, climbing up a bit more for you in Lab City, but Nain, you'll sit around 8 degrees through the overnight. So tomorrow doesn't look too bad, other than the chance of some showers across Labrador, which may be heavy at times, particularly as we head into the evening hours for Central and Northern Labrador. Other than that, not a whole lot happening. We also may see a few showers for the Northern Peninsula, but they should be pretty scattered in nature if they do develop, and they may even be some thunderstorm potential. We definitely have that risk of some thunderstorms through the afternoon hours. Towards the evening, though, the further east you go. And as far as what's happening through the day tomorrow, temperature-wise, take a look at these numbers. Another warm day tomorrow, 26 to 27 degrees. Winds again out of the southwest, a bit breezy, 30 to 40 kilometers per hour, but with these temperatures, it will certainly feel nice. A little cooler along the south coast. Again, may see some fog patches and drizzle continue through most of the afternoon. And then for Labrador, Taking a look at your temperatures as well into that southerly flow, which means even Happy Valley, Goose Bay up into the high 20s tomorrow, about 28 degrees. And then again, I do have that risk of thunderstorms in for you. And you can kind of see that line, right? Lab City through to northern Labrador into that cooler air between 10 and 18 degrees through the day. Now, temperatures will reach the 20-degree mark this week, it does look like, and I'll get into the long-range forecast coming up.
At 9, I found out that the people who raised me were not my biological parents.
And that began a lifelong quest to find her family. An American woman does finally find them here in Newfoundland. She's sharing the story behind that complicated journey just ahead. For Norma Gould, it really was the trip of a lifetime. 6 years ago, the North Carolina woman took a DNA test in an effort to learn more about her biological parents and where she comes from. Now, incredibly, she found immediate family members, cousins, and half-siblings living here in this province. So this summer, she traveled to Newfoundland to meet them. Gould and her daughter shared their story with Here and Now's Chelsea Jacobs.
I was born in California. Grew up and not the greatest of situations. At 9, I found out that the people who raised me were not my biological parents. I did find out later on that I was sold on the black market for $500. And I was homeless as a teenager and just wanted to know who my family was. I wanted the picket fence that everybody had that I didn't. So I lived with not knowing, but always said, I will find family. Especially my dad. There was this pull. Didn't know him. All I had was a name. And that was it until 2016.
Mm-hmm. And so tell me what happened in 2016.
So in 2016, I got the Ancestry.com DNA kits for my mother and my father, for hers for Mother's Day. But we always talked about that she didn't know any part of her family, and there was kind of a gap there. And I thought, well, heck, I mean, at least we'll know what country we're from at this point, because you don't even know that. And so we did the kits, and it came back that she had some familial matches. And that's kind of what started her on her journey with reaching out to family.
So my father, born and raised here, and my whole parental side is from here. When I saw that high match, which was a cousin, I reached out, and they didn't say anything for a year. So I reached out again to another person and another, and some were very opening. Some doors were shut tight, right? But the more I searched and the more I dug and the more help I got from a search angel who is part of a group that I'm in, he just was not going to give up. And he did it for free, unwaveringly kind.
So I think part of it was we knew that my grandfather had passed, and she spent a very long time trying to find his resting place, because he didn't have a headstone. All he had was a plot number. And so we had to establish relationships with the family in order to have them help us, with reaching out to the churches and getting those plot listings and finding him. And once we were able to find his resting place, we knew, okay, it's time. We have been accepted by the family via social media platforms and emails and calls, but we need to meet him in person. And she wanted to see where her father was buried. And so once we found out all that information, we said, okay, we're gonna set a date and we're gonna go. And then obviously the pandemic happened, and put it on hold for about 2 years, because you just don't know how long the restrictions are gonna last. And so finally in January, restrictions were lifted, thank goodness. And I said, we're gonna do this. And I booked the trip and I put it on the books, and we just kind of watched and hoped that nothing else happened and to delay the trip.
Tell me about the relatives that you have here in Newfoundland.
Wow. They're beautiful. They're so warm. They're so kind. They're so gentle. They're so open to knowing me and Deborah. It's magical. We laugh the same way. We have the same hands. We stand the same way. We walk the same way, don't we?
Mm-hmm. It's just absolutely incredible to meet a person. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, Mom did most of the communication with them. I had, kind of Facebook messaged them a little bit, but to meet them and have like this instant connection to somebody else that you've never met in your life. And we went and we fit right in. And it was like we didn't even skip a beat.
It was powerful. Something I've wanted my whole life was right there in front of me. Yeah, it was a day I'll never forget. What a trip of a lifetime. I have ended one journey and I'm starting a new one. All the hurt and the pain and the not knowing who I was in the mirror, not being able to answer the questions for the kids. And even my grandson, who's 8, is excited. He's like, you're going to know who you are. And every day we send photos and they go back to my husband and he shares them. He's like, this is so-and-so. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands who take a DNA test and find out their father is not their father. And they're lost, or they're told to go away, or they don't matter. I want people to know they matter. And if you did a DNA test and someone reaches out to you that's a stranger, just open your heart, just a little bit. Not all want anything. All we want is to know who we are, what love feels like, and that we matter. Because we all do, right? We all do.
Wow, what a story. Well, Gould and her daughter visited St. John's, Dildo, and Fairyland during their recent trip. She says Newfoundland is magical and that she could see herself buying a home here. Shifting now to a story out of Nova Scotia, a Mountie there who violated the RCMP's code of conduct after fondling co-workers will keep his job. Now that's despite the former commanding officer in the province wanting him dismissed for sexual assault. The case is pitting the local detachment against Commissioner Brenda Lucki. The CBC's Catherine Tunney reports.
A group of Mounties were capping off a day of tactical training at a local pub back in 2018. When, according to a recent RCMP Conduct Board decision, one officer placed his hands under another Mountie's shirt and grabbed her breasts in full view of other members. Constable Devin Pulsiver then moved on to a second officer and twice put his hands under her shirt. Pulsiver doesn't deny the allegations and said he was blackout drunk at the time. The RCMP's Conduct Board decided to dock Pulsiver's pay for 35 days and blocked him for getting a promotion for 2 years. But the head Mountie in Nova Scotia wanted him off the force. Then Commanding Officer Lee Bergerman felt that the board had intentionally misclassified Pulsiver's actions as unwanted sexual touching and not as sexual assault. The case landed on the desk of Commissioner Brenda Lucki, who sided with the board, allowing Pulsiver to stay on. The RCMP has been long accused of imposing weak sanctions on Mounties in cases of harassment and sexual assault, something Lucki promised would stop back in 2020.
It must be stopped. It will not be tolerated. There is absolutely no room for sexual assault, harassment, discrimination, bullying, sexism, racism, homophobia, or transphobia in the RCMP.
Lucki's office told CBC she doesn't condone Pulsiver's actions, but felt the discipline was adequate. Pulsiver did not respond to CBC's request for comment. Catherine Tunney, CBC News, Halifax.
Basically, it's a house on wheels. This is a bedroom, you can say, which has a mini split and lights.
A Toronto school bus gets a facelift in St. John's. How one man managed to make his mom a motorhome that also honors their culture. That story is coming up. Well, school's out and campers in. Two friends spent the pandemic converting a school bus into a home on wheels, all for one very special lady. Here and now's Henrika Wilhelm takes a tour.
And welcome to our house on wheels.
Okay, we're home.
This project has been going on for almost 2 years. You know, my mother, because of COVID-19, she was stuck in home and she didn't want to fly. So I thought that, have something where, we can travel, but travel with comfort and everything.
What was your reaction when you heard about this idea?
I didn't believe him first. I said, I looked at him, I said, no, you can't, why don't you just go and buy a camper? I said, what the hell? Anyhow, I just didn't think nothing of it, and then a year later, the bus showed up.
Basically, it's a house on wheels. You have a microwave here, and then you have a kind of a drawer, and then you have a washer-dryer unit together. So, and here you have 2 bunk beds. Here is the toilet. The normal RVs, they are made of fiberglass and very, things which are not as sturdy and strong as a school bus, because a school bus is actually made to protect children. This is a bedroom, you can say, which has a mini split. Under the bed is a 215-gallon freshwater reservoir. So this is actually quite compact. So this is all designed and thought by both of us, and he executed, So yeah, it's been a long road.
Any rough idea of how many hours you clocked? I'd be very curious to know that.
I don't want to be guessing, but it had to be a couple hundred hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Every inch counted, and we couldn't move stuff too much. But we had to compromise where we could and made it fit.
Tell me about this artwork there on the windows. I'm really curious.
Yes, so the artwork, all these designs, basically of art from Pakistan, is called truck art. So actually it has become quite famous all over the world. So I thought that it will represent, from where, we came from.
And what does the word mean up there in the window?
Tendojam is actually a small town where I grew up. It is very close to my heart, and I always dream about going there, but because we live so far away, so I thought that I will put the name Tendojam so that it reminds me of my childhood.
Now you said you did all this for your mom. What was your mom's reaction?
She was taken by surprise, and she wanted to find out when is Jim completing the bus, because she wanted to go and have a ride and everything. So yeah, she absolutely was thrilled. Okay, all set. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready to take off.
So when is her first ride going to be? When are you taking it on the road?
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking, hopefully, these couple of months, we'll take small rides and then we'll decide, maybe we'll go to the Grossmont Park or Terra Nova, and then, because we want to get to know, the workings of the bus.
Are you going to steal it for a little trip?
You never know when he's not looking.
Yeah.
If I can find the keys.
He has keys.
Yeah,
he has keys of our house, he has keys of our everything.
Yeah, he's last without me, so.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, guys.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, that is so interesting. So
pretty epic.
cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. Would you like to take a trip in something like that?
No, that would be wonderful.
Yeah,
It's brand
I think so
new.
too. Yeah. It looks really comfortable. It has a shower, bathroom. That's like camping in luxury.
It'd be a great way to see the province for sure.
And the dogs could come along too. So
exactly.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much to Henrika Wilhelm and video producer Katie Breen for putting that together for us. Well, St. John's economic performance has landed it in last place among 11 major Canadian cities. The Conference Board of Canada says the city has seen the smallest economic growth when compared with the other cities. So what's driving the poor performance, and when might we see the economy rebound? Ted Mallett, the Director of Economic Forecasting with the Conference Board of Canada, is here to talk about that. So can you walk us through this report and some of the main factors that led St. John's to be ranked last? What's different about St. John's compared to the other cities?
Yes, I can help out with that. St. John's is the strongest part of the Newfoundland and Labrador economy, but it has struggled to emerge from the post-pandemic kind of issues that all economies had to go through. Tourism is coming back, but we're still not seeing employment levels coming back in the hospitality sector, for example. It may take another 6 months to a year on that basis. But so we're saying that the output growth in 2021 and 2022 in the province or in the city is below 1%, which is last of all the cities that we're looking at. But there is some hope on the horizon. New activity on the offshore oil and gas will certainly help with Terra Nova coming back on stream, more exploration in Hibernia and Beta Nord. It has a huge impact on the local economy in St. John's. That's where most of the labor force activity takes place. That's where wages are paid, and that's where sort of the higher income spending levels are. So it's a gateway to the oil fields in the area, and therefore it's tied very, very closely to the oil sector. We've seen more recent growth kind of slow down in the retail side of things. One, inflation is really it's a persistent problem all across the country, and particularly in the Atlantic provinces, where we have more of a retail-based economy, and therefore people may be dissuaded from purchasing particularly big-ticket items. The other is that now that the hospitality sector is more open than before, restaurants, hotels, and so on. People can mingle. People are deciding to spend more on the kinds of services, meals out, entertainment, and so on, and not feel that they really have to spend on goods and products for households and so on. So we're seeing a transition of the economies from really retail only, which is what we saw in 2021, more towards a more balanced services as well as some retail, which we had really seen prior to the pandemic.
What are some of the other factors that the Conference Board looks at when trying to rank how the economy is performing overall?
We take a close look at the employment levels within the region, within the city. We look at construction growth, for example, what some of the major projects are. So we see some major non-residential projects, Churchill Park, Chancellor Park, and so on. We're seeing some retail developments, the Muse Community Center, and others. So there is a fairly healthy construction growth. There was a rebound in housing starts, really spurred by the pandemic, because people did focus on having better, more comfortable lifestyle homes that they could both perhaps obviously live in, but also work in. So a lot of renovations took place, and there was a spur to housing starts as a result of this kind of shift in consumer preferences.
And what's on the horizon here? Like, what does St. John's need to do to get out of this slump? How can it kind of get itself higher in the rankings, I guess you could say?
Well, it's an age-old question. Fundamentals are that it looks like oil prices are high enough to sustain some future-looking developments on the offshore, and therefore that's positive for some other businesses to perhaps feel it's worth making some investments in support activities. And certainly tourism has shown itself to be a major economic driver for many types of communities across the Atlantic region, and we think that that's really got some good potential as well. So, if we can count on good, stable commodity prices, particularly on the energy side, then that should help. And certainly if incomes can stay high, and Newfoundland and Labrador and St. John's in particular can be high in the list for tourism destinations, that's how to sort of climb the ladder and come back to where other cities are across the country.
Well, definitely some bright spots there that you mentioned. Ted Mallett, thank you so much for this.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
News you can trust. We have the latest on what's happening in your community and a weather forecast you can rely on no matter where you are in Atlantic Canada. I'm Amy Smith.
And I'm Ryan Snodden.
Join us for Atlantic Tonight,
right after the National.
The Lionesses have made history. English soccer fans are ecstatic after the women's team took home gold in the Euro 2022 final against Germany. Now, this is England's first ever win at a major women's championship. And as Katie Nicholson reports, it was a dramatic finish.
It's all over! A hard-won victory in extra time gave way to even harder partying. European champions!
think we've partied more than we actually played football in the past 24 hours.
Thousands crowded Trafalgar Square, proud of their lionesses.
It's amazing. The whole country's got behind them, and they deserve everything they get.
One of the reasons this victory is so sweet, England hasn't won a major football title since 1966, and it took a women's team to do it, something that just a few decades ago would have been unthinkable.
In 1921, they'd said that the game of football was quite unsuitable for females and ought not to be encouraged. It was essentially banned.
Even though the British ban was lifted in 1971, girls today in England have far fewer chances to play than their male counterparts.
I think still in a lot of places there's still an idea that football is a sport for boys.
Teacher Molly Witt has lived that reality.
A lot of my friends tried to play football when they were younger, and as soon as they got to a certain age, they weren't allowed to play because it was the boys' team.
There is hope today. The Lionesses' win has changed that.
Just by all these people being here, you know, it spreads the word that girls can play, you know?
I think this will definitely inspire more girls, and it will get more clubs to think more about the girls instead of just the boys.
And then there's the matter of pay. Women get far less than men's premiership stars. But this championship game smashed Euro attendance records for Wembley Stadium. And was the most watched TV program of the year.
It all snowballs together. So when we get higher viewership, that means that there's more commercial opportunities for women in sport.
And not just for the Lionesses, but the young girls who will follow in their footsteps. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, London.
Well, a looming import ban on dogs is causing anger and confusion. It will ban dogs from some countries due to the risk of rabies. Animal advocates say the measure is unnecessary. It's also creating a rush to get strays into Canada, and fast. The CBC's Philip Lee Shannock has the story.
A relief flight from Cuba arrives carrying precious cargo.
It's okay, baby. I promise we're going to get you home soon. You're going to be safe.
The 5 stray dogs are heading to new homes in Ottawa and Halifax.
Basically, it's a scramble to try to bring back as many as we can.
The organizer is planning more trips before a ban goes into place on dogs from 113 countries considered high risk for rabies. She says the new rules are an overreaction and agrees that rescue dogs should be vaccinated and lab tested before arrival.
You can guarantee that the dog has antibodies from the rabies vaccine.
In a statement, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency says testing is not enough, and the ban to take effect September 28th is part of the robust requirements that will protect Canadians and their pets.
Good boy, honey, good girl.
Canada has been one of the top destinations for dogs coming from countries where they may be at risk.
The dogs probably are going to suffer, and many of them might be euthanized or killed.
The head of this organization adopted a rescue dog herself 9 years ago. They've brought 2,600 dogs to Canada from Mexico, Lebanon, and Costa Rica. The ban will end that.
It's hard. I think, having a dog from Dominican myself, I can see how well he has adjusted to Canada and what an awesome life he has.
Animal shelters here are worried about what a surge in dogs in need of homes will look like.
We still have all those animals that are presently within the shelter system, and how many more can it take before we create a big backlog.
The CFIA says it took action after 2 dogs imported from overseas last year had rabies, and 50 people and their pets had to be treated as a precaution. Philip Lee Shannock, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, so time now to look at the long range, and I guess the question on everyone's mind this week is, how's the regatta looking?
Yeah, everyone's mind for sure in St. John's.
At least in St. John's, yeah.
At least in St. John's. It's looking rainy at this point, or at least the chance of showers, but that doesn't really matter. It's the wind that everybody cares about. Let's take a look at the forecast, though, as far as the future tracker goes. So we will see showers. Now, there's a bit of a cold front that's going to move through, and that, out ahead of it, will likely increase the wind speeds through the day. So definitely going to have to keep an eye on it, but if you are heading out there, definitely you're going to want to bring a rain jacket at this point because the potential for showers, much needed showers across the province, or across the island anyway, expected on Wednesday. So temperatures looking pretty nice overall. Pretty humid day expected though through the afternoon, anywhere from 22 to 25 or 26 degrees. Northern Peninsula a bit cooler for you, and then around 23 degrees for Happy Valley Goose Bay under lots of sunshine, and Nain you'll hover around 17. Same thing for Cartwright as the afternoon temperatures. Now as far as rainfall goes, it's not significant by any means. Some pockets of higher amounts. This will likely just be in some of the heavier showers, but overall a trace to 5 millimeters is certainly possible. We may see a little bit more than that, like I said, maybe 15 plus millimeters in some of those heavier showers. Now through Wednesday evening into Thursday. Thursday actually looks pretty beautiful at this point. Some sunshine, maybe a few lingering showers, but up across Labrador again, that chance of showers will stick around. Another front will move through and spark those showers. And then as we head through the afternoon hours and evening hours, we'll see those clouds on the increase, and then we'll see again along the south coast that potential for some drizzle and or showers. Temperatures for you staying cooler. We're in that southerly flow, but overall temperatures climbing again on Thursday, 25 to 28 degrees for eastern, central and western areas of Newfoundland. As far as the Northern Peninsula goes, your temperatures will be hovering in the teens, and then high teens or low 20s expected for Labrador again. But unfortunately, with the chance of showers, you also likely will see that sun peek out at times through the day. Long range forecast looks beautiful as far as temperatures go for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland. Some showers again on Friday evening, maybe lingering through the first half of Saturday, but we should see some clearing skies. But overall, those temperatures will be in the 20s, dipping a bit as we get into Saturday. And then for central Newfoundland, you're looking at those warm temperatures continuing. A few showers expected right through Friday, but Saturday at this point looks beautiful, 24 degrees and sunshine. And western Newfoundland, you're looking at some showers on Friday, but nice and sunny on Saturday and 21 degrees. Now for eastern Labrador, like I said, a pretty nice long range forecast, temperatures in the low 20s. And then for western Labrador, after a couple of days of 20-degree temperatures, going to dip down to the teens. So here's a nice shot of the weather photo of the day. It looks like cool cloud there, spaceship.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, Ernie shared that shot with us. If you have any, send them to Facebook, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, great shot. Well, that's it for us on this Monday evening. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone.
Good night.